Hello, hello, beautiful beings. Welcome to another episode of the Pleasure Alchemy podcast. Yes,
Hello, everyone.
today is a special episode, as they all are. However, I will be interviewing our one and only Janessa about conscious relationships and conscious non-monogamy. Get ready.
My favorite topic of all time, I think, these days.
Well, you've had quite a journey in this realm. And so I would love to know how you kind of started on your journey of conscious non-monogamy and what the evolution of that, because I know it
Yes.
wasn't.
Yeah, it's kind of a rocky start, but it's all part of the process, really.
Absolutely.
So essentially, I never initially was super drawn to non-monogamy. Like it never really crossed my mind ever until I met somebody that was practicing this. And
is that usually the gateway for many people? No.
It could be, but I think first and foremost, it's important that you have a desire to explore that. It doesn't have to be like that, but I think being sovereign in your desire and not doing it to please someone is a better route. But in my case, I did follow that path of choosing that in order to be with somebody. And so essentially this person was practicing it and I was like, I don't know about that. I don't think I'm ready. I have no idea really what I'm getting myself into. It doesn't really feel super aligned, but I was in infatuation with somebody and I was willing to do whatever it took to be with this person in some way. And so I said yes. And that took me down a really difficult road in terms of just, really struggling to follow my own intuition and to discover what feels right for me. And
so at first there was a little bit of a tiny hint of self-abandonment.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. And that experience definitely was not conscious. I would say it was more unconscious non-monogamy because there was a lack of communication. There was no conversation around boundaries or what it is that we're both desiring in connection. You know, these questions are important to speak to whenever you go into a new relationship, whether it be non-monogamy or not. And we didn't have those conversations. And so there was a lot of unsaid things. There's a lot of assumptions and expectations on both of our sides. And this ended in a lot of heartbreak for me personally, a lot of tears, and feeling just so alone and disconnected with not only myself, but him as well. And I never thought that I would choose non-monogamy again after that experience.
You were kind of over it.
It was so painful, and I blamed non-monogamy for that erupting, and it really wasn't non-monogamy. It was
a lack of integrity.
Yeah, it was just like lack of honesty, lack of clarity, and just like a lot of what the fuck moments. And there was a lot of layers too that were underneath all of the lack of communication, for a better word, and a lot of abandonment wounds coming up. And we both were in this triggered place a lot, not just because we were both in open relating with each other, but I couldn't really say exactly what was coming up between us, but there was a lot of layers to it. But again, like I said, I put non-monogamy as the reason why that didn't work out.
Right.
And so I pushed that away for a long time. And then I entered a monogamous relationship in the beginning of 2020, and things weren't working out between us in some ways, I would say sexually. And so he invited us to enter non-monogamy. And again, it's like I wasn't open to it, but I was curious to see how it would work out. And it was almost like the same thing was repeating. There was a lack of communication, there was secrecy, there was hiding, there's all these things. And I was just like, no, again.
It's interesting.
This is
It seemed like you were attracting non-monogamous
yeah,
males.
completely.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. And so again, it was like, why is this showing up? And two, asking myself, like, is this what I really want? And to fast forward, to not make it super long story, I ended things with that person again. And I met someone new. I'm going to say his name because we are still in a beautiful connection with each other. His name is Sam. And when I met him, it was a whole different picture around open relating that really allowed me to understand the depth of communication and honesty. And we had that from the very beginning. And so, because that was there, I was open to experimenting and going on that journey with him of being non monogamous. And it was incredibly healing and so powerful. And we are still friends to this day and have a beautiful connection. And through his connection as well, I've done so much healing around jealousy and comparison and so many things that have really allowed me to be the person I am now, that is more confident in myself and the way that I relate to other people as well. So that's like a really condensed story. There's a lot that happened in between, but that's how I can sum up. And then also too, within our connection at the time, I was living in Santa Cruz with Sam, and I decided to move to Maui all of a sudden. And that was a decision that I felt was such a deep calling within my heart. I knew that I had to go there, and we continued to relate, even though the connection wasn't as strong anymore because of the distance and everything. I soon met my, now I call him my core or primary partner, Mike, and he lives in Maui just down the road from me. And we have an amazing connection, and it's everything that I envisioned and have been calling in terms of creating a conscious relationship that is non-monogamous and super supportive in so many ways. And yeah, it's been a pretty magical journey, to say the least. A lot of bumps and along the way, but
a lot of learning and lessons.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like so many. And
so I've had the pleasure of witnessing.
Yeah. I mean, you've heard it all and seen it all. So
indeed. And what I'm hearing, for me, because I'm in a conscious monogamous relationship, and there is fear around being in non-monogamy because of the jealousy and comparison and the deepest wound, which is abandonment. But you've mentioned, and I'd love to hear your take on this, that it's been actually really healing in those areas. And you said that a little bit, but can you speak more?
Yes. So I would say in general, like my jealousy tendencies have not been super strong, but it's only when I'm put in a situation where there's like a threat of my partner leaving me, which is more prevalent in an open relationship, I find, because that false security net is not there. And so because there's this open window to connect with other people in a different way, it's more, I feel, yeah, you're more put in that situation of jealousy happening. And so that always scared me, but I knew like deep inside of myself that I wanted to look at that. I wanted to heal that. And by putting myself in a situation that would really allow me to really look at that, I said yes to it. And I was put in situations where that jealousy was there. But I think practicing speaking to that with my partner and saying the words out loud, like, I'm feeling jealous right now, and then them hearing it, receiving it, and being willing to hold space for me in those moments and to process with me and have them reassure me that they're not going anywhere, they're here for me. Those are just some of the ways that have really allowed me to overcome the jealousy. And I think as well, creating or being open to having some sort of connection with whoever my partner is connecting with, or even just having a knowledge of who they are and what their connection is like, helps me to feel more secure in myself and the relationship with my partner. So again, it's like having that crystal clear clarity and communication is just like so, so key.
Beautiful. Absolutely. And as you're speaking to this, and because I've read The Ethical Slut and I've contemplated this as well, and I've, whether you're in a monogamous relationship or non-monogamous, having a partner that you feel safe with, that you have communicated your agreements, someone that is very honest and transparent, like these are both parallels. And when you were in a non-monogamous relationship with someone who wasn't in integrity, with consent, with honoring your agreements, things like that, I mean, that can be a part of either monogamous or non-monogamous relationship. And if that's not there in a monogamous relationship, there can be a lot of jealousy, a lot of distrust.
100%. Yeah.
And likewise, because you've had partners who were on the more integral spectrum, and now moving from Sam to Mike, men who are more in integrity.
Yes. Yeah.
You feel safer to go to heal these aspects of self that have been programmed and conditioned and developed over time. And it's been beautiful to watch you. And this leads me over to some myths around non-monogamous relationship, and one of them being you cannot be as devoted or committed to a partner. Can you speak more on this one?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people that are monogamous or have those, mostly that desire, they believe in their experiences that they can only be devoted and committed to one person. And while that might be the case, I think that all depends like on your relationship to sexual energy, relationship to your body, and like what it is you're available for, what it is that you're desiring. And so if you're desiring to only experience those energies with that one person, then yes, like that makes sense. But if you are someone that's wanting to practice non-monogamy but still have that devotion there, it's all about having like those clear boundaries around what is comfortable, what's not comfortable. And so for me, I have certain agreements with Mike and Sam that look different for each of us. And because I have those agreements, that to me is like the devotion right there. The integrity is the devotion, the level of making that commitment with your partner that feels good for both people, and you stick to it and honor it as much as you can. That to me is devotion. So you can practice that with whoever you're with, whether it be a friend, romantic partner, lover, like, yeah.
Yeah. And for you, I mean, you have your core, your primary. Not everyone has that who practices non-monogamy, but there
Yes.
is such a heart and soul connection to these people. And that leads us to the next myth, is that non-monogamy can be like really leaky, or it's really like open, free, there's no boundaries.
Yeah.
It's like a free for all. So can you speak a little bit more on that one?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people that aren't aware of boundaries and communication, that's where I feel like it could get super messy and your energy can just be all over the place. And it's unsettling, not only I feel from the person receiving who's in the relationship, but for everyone that's involved with all the other partners and connections. So yeah, like having those boundaries is so necessary to again have that integrity and honesty and really intimacy and deep connection. Because when you have that communication, it creates the safety to connect with your heart, to share sexual energy. So I feel like all of the answers are centered around boundaries, but it's so prevalent and important when practicing non-monogamy.
Yeah, it's been healing for me to watch you, because that, seeing kind of the toxic, more toxic, I'm using that word, but the toxic non or like open relating as a place to like avoid
Mhm.
seeing your shit and taking responsibility for your shit, and just like, you know, when things are kind of rocky with one partner, just going to the next, and like using avoidance patterns. And but you've helped me see that there are many, many, many conscious partnerships that are in integrity. And of
Yeah,
course,
and that's all. Thank you for speaking to that, because that is totally something that people go down that path because they're, again, it's like it's the shadow side of all relationships, but like almost manipulating or like using open relationships to escape. And so like you could do this in non or monogamous relationships too, like using your
totally.
partner to escape your problems. And yeah.
Yeah, or using any kind of third, like,
Yeah.
you know, sports or
Hmm.
food or
Totally.
anything to kind of avoid,
Hmm.
you know, a family member. So it's really establishing that you and your partner like have each other's back
Hmm.
ultimately, if that's what the
Yeah.
type of non-monogamous relationship that you choose, or monogamous.
Yeah. And I love too that there's so many flavors of non-monogamy. Like I highly recommend, if you guys are interested at all in what we're talking about, to get the book Polysecure. It's an incredible book that teaches about secure attachment style, and everything in this book could apply to any relationships, but it's just so amazing to see all the different flavors of relationships that you could potentially have. And it's really exciting to know that you have the power and the freedom to create this for yourself. Like there's no rule book or guidebook that says that you have to be in a certain type of relationship in order to receive the love that you want.
Absolutely. Yeah. Ethical Slut really expanded my mind in that way as well.
Yeah, I actually never finished that book. I read like a few chapters.
It's a big book, so I listened to it on Audible. That was
Nice.
helpful for me. And then the next myth is that it's all about sex. Can you talk about this one?
I think for some people it is. It can be for sure.
Yeah.
But for me personally, it's more so about intimacy and connection and knowing that whoever I connect with, it's going to be completely different. And that's
Mm.
the beauty of non-monogamy to me, is that there's this level of exploration that you can go and experience with certain people. And yeah, I love that playground of exploration that is present,
Mm.
because I know for me, I have put a lot of my needs based on one person and putting them on this pedestal that's like, you have to be everything for me. You have to be the person I laugh with, the person I do sports with, the person I adventure with. And that's so much pressure to put on one person. And I love that with non-monogamy, it's like I can have all those different types of relationships and not put everything on my partner.
Yeah. Estelle Perel, she talks about, it's a famous quote of hers, that we expect our partner to do and be everything that an entire village once was and provided for us.
Yes.
So
Oh my God, it's so true. Like I've done it. So many people do it.
yeah,
And it's this yeah, it's almost this practice of codependency that we're all healing from and
absolutely. Yeah,
trying to transcend from.
I noticed that when Victor and I start to get a little irritable with each other, it's like, okay, it's time to go out and be with community and
Yes.
friends,
Yeah.
and to really, it's a reminder to nourish those
Hmm.
other relationships as well.
Yeah. And parts of ourselves that have different desires and different needs.
Yeah, we're so multifaceted and multidimensional.
Yes. Yeah. Like I'll just share that Mike and Sam are couldn't be any more different. It's pretty amazing, like how, but in some ways, like there is common threads, but overall there's, I feel I get my needs met in so many different ways from both of them. And I love that. Like it's so beautiful. And it makes me almost in a way like appreciate both of them so much because I have that deep contrast and polarity.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like them both a lot.
Yeah,
So
because if you're around someone all the time and you have this connection, it's like you can, yeah, start to, in a way, sometimes it could happen, like miss out on different aspects that you're not experiencing with other people.
yes, potentially.
Yes,
Potentially, depending how kind of codependent or unhealthy.
exactly. Yeah.
But for me, like the conscious part is kind of like the key word, because you can do non-monogamy and monogamy. It's kind of a tongue twister for me.
Yeah, it is. For me too.
Never said it so many times in 1 hour. If they're unconscious, then either way, there's going to be a lot of cracks, and
Mm-hmm.
it will create a lot of chaos and disharmony. And so, yeah, really taking self-responsibility, I think, is like the core, and just being as honest and transparent as you can be. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And for me, like making sure to really tend to myself, tend to my friends, tend to my community, the things that I like, and create, just for me, like a key word in relationship is like balance. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there can be codependency in a monogamous and a non-monogamous. So it's like there's just so many
Yes.
similarities. It's really
Mm-hmm.
knowing, yeah, what do you recommend for people to get really clear on? It's like knowing what you really want, and also being open, like experimenting. What's kind of like a recipe, if you will?
Man, that's such a hard question because everyone is on their own journeys. Everyone has their own wounding. And so
Yeah,
depending on like how deep your attachment wounds are, like if you're a person that's never looked at jealousy or comparison or anything like that, it can almost be too shocking for the nervous system and almost
right.
cause like more harm than good. So I think it's first really understanding your own attachment style and seeing if that is something that you want to heal on your own first. And then if you have gone down that path, open that up to, healing that within a relationship as well. And a really helpful tip that I love from Polysecure is that if you are curious to experimenting with being open or non-monogamous, is to create a time frame where you're in this vessel where it's like you are creating that secure attachment with your partner first. And then once you feel secure with them, then you can open it up to connect with other people.
Yeah, that's something I have contemplated a lot, and think that might be possible for me down the
Yes.
future, because
Yeah.
it's like once you've been with someone for like 7, 10, 15 years, you might want
20.
to
Yeah.
open it up.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's definitely a part of me, the Leo, who's just like, I want a man to be totally devoted to me. I'm this goddess, and
Yeah.
have really deep, meaningful connections,
Mm-hmm.
heart-based, maybe not. For me, I also am practicing, because I've been more sexually unconscious person, and am a very sexual person. That's one of my main erotic blueprints, and so it's easy for me to go just be really sexual. And so creating more relations and depth and intimacy from the heart, without it needing to always go
Yes.
genital to
Yeah.
genital. And
Mm-hmm.
so right now, that's why monogamous, and because I have deep abandonment wounds,
Mm-hmm.
building that relationship and that trust, that foundation of safety and trust before opening it up. But I
Yes.
love, it's been just rewarding for me, and opening for me to witness you, and to, yeah, just see all the ins and outs and the intricacies of of your relations. And yeah, I really admire you in a lot of ways, for your
Thank
your
you.
bravery and your courage, and your willingness to explore. And
Yeah, to me
yeah,
it's like this, it's a practice and like deep devotion to asking myself, like, how can I be in my heart more? Even when
Mm.
I'm triggered, even when I'm jealous, even when all the shit feels chaotic, I'm like, how can I be in my heart more? Like
Mm.
that for me has like just been such a healing and powerful tool to like really practice with my partners. And yeah, I love that going on this journey has been so transformative in so many different ways.
Mm. May all beings inquire about that question.
Yes.
How can we be in our hearts more as a collective human
Mm-hmm.
race? Mm.
Yes.
Mm. The humankind. But yeah, I think this offers people a lot of freedom. And as you said, sovereignty and autonomy to choose, just like our education system, some people grow up and they're actually like highly intelligent beings that don't fit into this really monotonous school system. And so then they're
Mhm.
deemed like put on Adderall and things like that. And it's similar with relationships. It's like so many maybe divorces or relationships that ended because someone cheated. If they
Mhm.
had were more honesty and better agreements, like it could have been a different outcome for them for so many, probably. It's also a part of the deconditioning process and really understanding your true self, right? Like
Yes.
who am I without all my subconscious conditioning and programming? Like who do I
Mhm.
really choose to be? So it's a
Yes.
beautiful invitation exploration.
Yeah, and I think speaking to what you were asking me before with the person that's curious but maybe not quite sure how to go about this, I think reflecting to myself and like journaling, like what is like my dream relationship? What would make me feel so alive and so aligned, and just being free with yourself to explore that possibility. And maybe it's having like a core rooted partner and then having that openness to connect with other people. Like that's something I have journaled about and wrote about. And
Mm.
um I had my doubts. I was like, I don't know if I can find that person. And then I was like, nope, I'm holding to the fact that I can have that and it's possible, and made space for that to come in. And I did meet somebody. And so it is possible to have whatever type of relationship that you want. There are so many people out there that may be in the closet still, wanting to break free from monogamy or to explore, but are afraid. And this is why, these conversations are so powerful and important, because it's letting that doorway slightly open to know
Mm.
that there are people doing this and there are people practicing it consciously and lovingly. And
Yeah,
yeah.
there's options. I love what you said that though, because whether you're in a conscious or non-monogamous or in a monogamous or non-monogamous relationship, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Um, it's normal to have doubts. I know you've had expressed doubts even like recently. Like it's just
Yeah.
normal. That's why I love the journaling and the self-inquiry, is because I think to do that regularly, even with like your values and your
Mm-hmm.
relationship values, like reviewing them quarterly and seeing like, is this still in alignment with who I am today? Because sometimes we
Mm-hmm.
make agreements in the past that over time we outgrow, or we just, we're always changing and evolving. So it's really healthy and sustainable to, excuse me, to do those um often.
Inquiries. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
love.
Speaking of, our values and things changing, something
Mhm.
that I feel is super alive for me in the way I relate is I'm very fluid. Like for a while, I was only wanting to explore intimacy, sexual intimacy with Mike, and that felt really good for me. And the way he relates is not quite on that level. Like he was still wanting to connect with other people, but he was willing and able to create that vessel that I was talking about with me in order to build that trust between us. So him being willing to do that was just like so incredibly amazing for me. Like it built that trust and integrity that I needed. and safety. And so, yeah, like our relationship's always ebbing and flowing. Like sometimes I'll feel like, oh, I kind of want to be in our cocoon and just with us. And like, oh, yeah, well, maybe now I had that and I'm ready to, make out with somebody or cuddle with somebody, and that
Yeah.
feels good. And so it's constantly just checking in with ourselves periodically to see what has shifted, what has changed. And yeah, I love that fluidity. Like I'm a person that loves change and newness, and I'm constantly changing as a feminine being. So it's like,
Aquarius. Okay.
yeah, so it's just really honoring the fact that I am someone who changes all the time, and I can meet those needs with somebody that honors that as well is like super incredible.
Mm. Basically, I'm hearing is you can create the life that you want in any way, shape, or form. The world
Pretty
is
much.
yours for
Yeah,
the taking. Mm.
exactly. And I think,
Oh.
oh, something that I've seen myself get into and others as well is like we're always afraid of being in this permanent state. Like, oh my
Mm.
God, I entered monogamy. I'm going to be with this person forever. Like, there's all this fear, or I'm open with somebody. Oh my God, like, wait, do I really want to be open with them forever? And just knowing that, like, nothing's forever. Like, everything's
Mm.
constantly shifting and changing. And what I deeply practice is to just not be attached to things being a certain way as we evolve and change. Like thinking that we have to be a certain way all the time, it just creates so much unnecessary suffering.
Right. Balance, the balance between security and freedom. So ongoing
Yeah, ongoing.
exploration. Totally. Well, thank you so much. That's pretty much all the time we have today, folks. But before we end our episode, we're going to share a little bit about our offerings. And so, Janessa, um, how can people work with you right now? And is there anything that you're developing as well?
Yes, thank you for asking that. So, right now, I have open enrollment to work with me one on one through my creation called The Embodied Woman. And really, this offer is for any woman that's wanting to get more in touch with their body, with their emotions, with their feminine energy, with their self intimacy. Oh, microphone just fell. And who's really desiring a deeper connection to self.
Mm.
And I do this through dance, embodiment, through inner child healing, shadow work, all the amazing things that have really created the embodiment that I live today. And so that's what I
Yeah.
have going on now. And then coming up quite soon, I'm still in the developing stages, but I have a 6-week group course for women that are wanting to explore kink and intimacy and conscious relating. And I'm really excited
Mm.
about this because I feel that there's such an incredible, potent transformation that happens within group spaces, as I'm sure you know. And it's just a great space to be vulnerable, to feel supported with like minded women who are also on a similar journey. So, yeah, that's what I have
Absolutely.
going on. And you can stay tuned and updated to when that will be available on my Instagram at Janessa Dalalana. And you can also contact me too if you're ever interested in any sort of offers that I have. That's where you can connect with me.
Mm. Yes. Highly recommend Janessa's work.
And
We
what
both had the
about
pleasure of witnessing each other grow and blossom into the beautiful embodied women that we are today. So
mm,
truly a gift. And I have a 3-month program called Sensual Metamorphosis. And this program is to help women heal sexual trauma and to heal their relationship to their sexuality, their sexual energy, to their bodies, doing feminine reclamation practices. And I have a series of modules that start off building that trust and safety with yourself, rebuilding it, and then starting to cultivate more pleasure within your body and start to open up and feel more safe to feel these greater and greater depths of pleasure as a tool of self actualization and transformation. So it's really really beautiful stuff as well. And something that that's been brewing is a program called the Temple of Radiance, which combines microdosing with mushrooms and self pleasure practices. So, literally being guided with embodiment and self pleasure practices while microdosing. So, I'm really, really excited because I've been microdosing regularly for 2 years. And this has been so powerful for my healing. This with Tantra and sacred sexuality combined, it's like,
It's so good. So excited for you.
next level. Thank you. And I also have a self-love workshop series in Santa Cruz every Sunday, the month of April, this upcoming month. I have 5 spots filled and we have about 6 left. So if you're in the Santa Cruz area and you want to be live, like Janessa said, in a very safe, sacred, and healing container of women healing our sisterhood wounds and just feeling really loved up and nourished with other women. It's so, so good. I can't
God, I
wait.
wish I could come.
I wish you were there too. So thank you everyone for listening. We love you. We appreciate your time. Until next time, see you next week.
Bye, everyone.
Ciao.